Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today we've got a Bond Arms Backup 45. And you may have already seen the review we did on the Bond Arms SnakeSlayer IV a while back. Basically it's the same frame. There's a huge amount of interchangeability in the Bond Arms line, and the frame itself is the part that's serialized, and the barrels are interchangeable. They've got several different finishes, like this matte black finish with a matte stainless on this barrel. And you can also get the barrels in stainless, the frame in stainless. So what they've done is they've taken a basic frame design and they configure it with a bunch of different finishes and grips to make a pretty diverse line of guns. So we'll start off by showing you that this particular one is unloaded. And it is a flip-up barrel. Basically it's a Derringer Style gun. This little release lever you push down allows you to flip the barrel up. You load it from the back and then clip it back down and you're ready to go. This particular one is chambered in 45 ACP, and that's why they call this one the Backup 45. But like the SnakeSlayer, you can buy different barrels for different calibers, different lengths. And though this one does have the matte stainless finish, the shiny stainless ones will work fine in the gun. They just may not look, as continuous as this does. It does have a trigger guard, but this gun is definitely a true single action. You have to cock the hammer to fire it. It does have a bolt safety, so at the moment this particular safety, because you can see the red, is in the ready to fire position, and that would be safe. And then back to ready to fire. And they do have what's called a rebounding hammer. You can see there's a gap there between the firing pin and the hammer. And if I push forward on the hammer, I can't hit the firing pin. So the only way the hammer can hit the firing pin is if the trigger is pulled. So if you do have it hammered down and you happen to have the safety off, the hammer, if you were to drop it, can't hit the firing pin. Though it is recommended that if you have it loaded, that you have the safety on when you're not carrying it. That's a double check. Because in the event you dropped it hard enough to break this rebounding mechanism, the safety itself would prevent it from hitting the hammer. But these are very safe to carry. They're not really intended to be carried cocked and locked. They're meant to be cocked at the time you use them, and they're relatively easy to cock. It's got a good spur on it, easy to get a hold of, and easy to grip to cock it. Now, we did take this to the range. You'll see the range footage at the beginning of the video. This is the smallest variation of grips that they offer, and we did actually find this a little unpleasant to shoot. When we had the SnakeSlayer, that was actually pretty reasonable. It's a lot of power in a small gun. It weighs 1 pound 3 1/4 ounces, but with the SnakeSlayer it has a bigger grip, and it was actually pretty comfortable to shoot. What we found is that this one, when you gripped it, tended to drive all of the energy into that one spot right there. And you really don't get a lot of backing up on the grip down here, and you're getting a finger and a half, maybe 2 fingers on it. So we did buy another set of grips, and we're going to change them later in this video, and then we'll have some follow-up footage showing what it's like after the grips and how much of a difference that made. But that's the nice thing about these. You buy whichever one you buy, and the grips are configurable, the barrels are changeable. The trigger is pretty much it's a variation of the spur trigger, and you kind of pull. As you pull back, it goes down a little bit. Exceptionally short travel. I'm not going to dry fire this. I don't recommend dry firing it, but what I will do is I'll hold my thumb on the hammer and pull the trigger, and you'll see it's a very, very short trigger travel. So just pretty much that was the break. So once you've got it in a cocked position, they're exceptionally easy to fire. And you notice the trigger is somewhat contoured, so your thumb or your trigger finger fits nicely on the trigger. Everything on the gun is well thought out. As far as changing the barrels, I've mentioned that. There's a hex screw right here. And when you buy a replacement barrel, it'll come with the wrench. It doesn't come with the wrench if you've got the stock barrel. But you just back the screw out, pull the barrel out, and any of the barrels for any of their guns will fit on this. And they've got them ranging all the way from 22 all the way up to 10 millimeter, as well as 410 shot shells. So what it's really meant for, it's a backup gun. It's the type of gun that you can stick someplace. It's exceptionally small. It's not the lightest thing in the world because it's all stainless, but it's exceptionally small, and you can hide it pretty much anywhere. The SnakeSlayer I use as a snake gun when I'm out where I might encounter some snakes. So it's not meant to be, taken to the range and spending days at the range. And it really doesn't have super sights. It's got a notch and a ramp sight. And the sights are a little bit difficult to see when you're at the range, but that's not really what this type of gun is meant for. The other thing is you do get a little bit of parallax error because of the two barrels, one on top of each other. It fires the barrels sequentially, so every time you cock it, it picks a different barrel, and it just alternates back and forth between them. But this isn't meant to be a 25-yard gun. This is an up-close and personal type gun. You're pulling this out, in the case like a snake, it's down near your feet. Or in the case of a two-legged threat, the two-legged threat's right there up in front with you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change out these grips, and then we'll follow up with our thoughts after having changed the grips. The grips are held on by a single screw right here, and so you just take the screw out. And the one that's in this one at the moment is a flathead. Let's take a small flathead screwdriver and just unscrew the screw. And the grips come off. You can see that these are rubberized grips and they just fit on there. And the grip on the other side has a brass insert. Let's see if I can get where you can see it. Right there. There's a brass insert. That's what the screw thread's into. And one of the things that's real important that you do when you swap out the grips, I'm going to show you when I do the other ones, is you don't use that brass insert to drive the grips together. So you want to make sure the grips are squeezed completely flush on the gun before you put the screw in, because if there's a gap and you try to drive it in with the screw, you may actually pull that brass insert out. And since we've got it apart, I might as well show you the internals. You can see there's the mainspring, and there's really no need to mess with that at any point. We just happen to expose it because we've taken apart the grips, but you got the mainspring up through here. So let's go ahead and put the new grips on it. So the new grips are a little bit bigger. Here you can see the brass insert a little more clearly on this one. And it goes with the star up towards the top of the gun. So this is the part that hangs down. So this, of course, is going to be the right-hand side. And this one is going to be the left side. And it has these alignment pins to align the bottom half so that it doesn't get floppy, since this is actually going to hang down below the gun. And be careful, these aren't glued in there or anything. They're just kind of there. So if they can possibly pop out, while you're trying to assemble it. So I'm going to put that one in first, and while holding on to that, I'm going to put the top grip on and line it up. Now it's important that there be no gap. You can see I got a gap here, so I need to work on getting that aligned. And they recommend you can either squeeze it with your hand. If you don't have super strong hands, you can use a rubber mallet, but you want to squeeze. So once I'm sure that I've got them aligned correctly and I'm not actually squeezing them to push those pins into the wrong part of the grip, but I'm going to squeeze it until I eliminate any gap back there. And again, if you don't have real strong hands, then you can use a rubber mallet to do that. So the instructions do clearly indicate to make sure that the back pieces are touching. Unfortunately, it doesn't show a close-up of it. I've got a slight gap, as you can see, but I have verified that the pins in the two pieces inside where the screw goes through are touching each other. And I did that by taking a small pick, a little bent pick, and with it up against the edge of the hole, kind of at an angle, I slid down there feeling for a gap. And it hits that brass piece and there's no gap. So I know I've got it all the way together. And so I do believe you are going to end up with a little bit of a gap. But this is as close as you're going to get them with rubber pieces up against a metal frame. So I'm going to go put the screw in. And it's important, you're not really trying to torque the screw down. You're just really preventing them from separating. So I'm going to drop the screw in. And then with the screwdriver, notice I'm just using a couple fingers. And then go it down till it's snug, but I'm not trying to make it super tight. Because if you try to over tighten it, this is all rubber and plastic, and so it's not something that you can torque down. At this point now, we have a grip that when we hold it, hits a much larger section of our hand, and you get really a good 3-finger grip on it. So this should spread the recoil across the entire hand instead of focusing it all right here. So we'll take this to the range, we'll give it a shot, and we'll follow up with some information when we get back. Okay, so we're back from the range with it. We did take it out and shoot it with the new grip on it, and it is more comfortable to shoot. Of course, you can see that it is unloaded. It is more comfortable to shoot now that it distributes more of the recoil and pulse across the entire hand. It's still not what you would call a super pleasant gun to shoot. This isn't something that you're going to take out on a Saturday afternoon for a fun afternoon at the range. But it's definitely very shootable and very, very manageable and easy to control. But, a Saturday afternoon in the range isn't the point of this gun. This is a gun that you're going to have when something slithers a little too close to you, whether it's got scales or 2 legs or 4 legs. And when you find yourself needing to use this, the recoil and pulse on your hand is not going to be your primary thought. One of the other things I'll mention is we did pick up a holster for it, and this is a sticky holster made for Bond Arms, and they sell them on their site, and basically it's meant to either cling to your clothing or go in a pocket or whatever, and the gun does slide right into it. Unfortunately, this is more of a universal style holster than one specifically custom to this gun, so that it doesn't really retain it. There's no real retention. We're probably going to take and sew it just a little bit here to tighten it up, just so that the gun will be less likely to just drop out on its own. Of course, you're not going to go upside down when you have the holster, but as you're bouncing around and doing stuff, you wouldn't want the gun to, kind of walk its way back out and then fall on the ground. But Bond Arms does have a number of different holster options on their site. And if you're looking for a very small, easy to conceal, backup type pistol, snake gun, boot gun, ankle gun, backup gun type thing, this is perfect for that. If you're looking for a range toy to spend an entire afternoon doing some recoil therapy, this wouldn't necessarily be your best choice. And, this is 45 ACP, but do keep in mind that you can get this basic gun in a number of different calibers, including 9mm. And even if you can't find it exactly like this in a particular caliber you want, you can buy the barrel off their site and install the barrel, because they're all fully interchangeable. But you can buy one that looks just like this in 9mm, which of course is going to have a little bit less of a stout recoil than 45. So overall, these are great little guns, well constructed, and very good for their intended purpose. If you like our videos, please check us out on Facebook, or give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you.